Chapter 4, Section 5. Composers and songwriters gain mechanical royalties when they get the song they have composed or arranged onto albums. If a song is under 5 minutes, the minimum rate defined by federal statute is 9.1 cents per song. However, many record companies do not want to obey the federal statute, so they have amended it with what is called the Controlled Composition Clause. This clause means that for songwriters and composers whose copyrights are controlled by the company and any associated publishers, the record company will only pay 10 times 3/4 of the minimum statutory rate, that is, 75% of the minimum statutory rate. That sounds complicated, but it means that you will not be paid more than 75% of the statutory royalties due you on any 10 songs you have given to your record label or related publishers. To make the math a little bit simpler, 75% of 9 cents is about 6.7 cents. If you have 10 songs on an album, you may look to get about 68 cents instead of the 91 cents that you are owed. It doesn't seem like a lot, but when you sell 1 million albums, that will be the difference between nearly having $1 million and coming out around $680,000. The Controlled Composition Clause is a cost of doing business as a songwriter or composer that is very hard to remove if you are working with major labels and record companies. If you are considering a contract, you might consider having your lawyer trying to knock this clause out on the grounds of federal law, but your chances are not good. Some people's chances are better than others. If you work in a field that tends to use longer songs or pieces of music, think jazz, concert, or any kind of music heavy on ballads, you might be able to make a better argument about how much you are being cheated. If you are a musician of great standing, you may get your way. But even then, it is unlikely. If you are offering a song for an album and you aren't under contract to the particular company that is putting together the album, the Controlled Composition Clause does not apply to you. You are entitled to the full minimum statutory rate for your short songs and to the long rate for your long songs. Still, many record companies will ask that you submit to the Controlled Composition Clause and rate. If you have sufficient standing, you might be able to refuse without the risk of being dropped from the album. The company is not likely to change its total royalty payment. The extra squeeze will simply be applied to someone else. If you are an artist-songwriter under contract to a record company or an associated publisher, prepare to be squeezed. If for whatever reason the company has to relax the Controlled Composition Clause for someone else, the money above 75% of the statutory royalties on the songs of the album is going to come out of your mechanical royalties. You will bear that cost, not the company. This is a similar idea to the recoupment system previously mentioned, only it is worse because it cuts into the only source of royalties an artist-songwriter is assured to see from a record release, and can cut so deep as to post negative numbers. Yes, negative numbers. We didn't like them when we took algebra. You're really not going to like them in the world of music. Here are some scenarios drawn from real life, each one more harmful to an artist-songwriter's royalty position under the Controlled Composition Clause. And these examples assume a 10-song album. If you write 12 songs for an album instead of 10, you are going to lose royalties on 2 songs. The record company will not pay you for the other 2. If on a 12-song album you write 6 songs and a non-performing writer controlled by the company writes 6, you are going to lose royalties because your company will not pay for more than 10 songs. But your fellow songwriter, who is not controlled by the company, must be paid full rate for all 6 songs. Therefore, you will only be paid for 4 songs. Anytime a non-performing writer contributes songs that push the total above 10, your royalties will be reduced in favor of the other writer being paid in full. If, on a 10-song album, some co-writers successfully insist on getting their full statutory rate, your mechanical rate will be reduced on all your songs to pay the difference. If the amount of royalties being paid to co-writers not covered by the controlled composition clause is exactly the maximum total royalties the record company is willing to pay, you could receive no mechanical royalties at all. I'll read that again. If the amount of royalties being paid to co-writers who are not under the control of your company is exactly as much as the record company is willing to pay, you could receive no royalties at all. You could sell 1 million albums under this scenario and never see a dime of mechanical royalties. If the amount of royalties being paid to co-writers not controlled by your company and therefore not under the control of the controlled composition clause exceeds the maximum total royalties the record company is willing to pay, you will owe the record company the mechanical royalties it has to pay to your co-writers. In that case, the more albums that sell, the more you will owe your fellow co-writers and the deeper in debt you will be. You could sell 1 million albums and be in debt 2 cents per for 1 million albums. This has happened in music business history.